All right, hey traders, TG Watkins here. It is June 1st, so we are now into June, done with May. Sell in May, go away, right? So that's what we've been dealing with. I hope everyone's doing well out there. As just a quick reminder, I did put out a free bear market webinar update last week. So if you guys want to go check it out, it is out there for free. We'll put some links out there for you, but it's on Simpler's YouTube, it's on the Profit Pilot YouTube, it's also under services here for Profit Pilot. You can come down here and check it out. So, I thought there was some pretty good information in there if you guys want to look at it. All right, so let's get into the markets. If you guys have any questions about particular names or anything else like that, let me know because it's always interesting to see where you guys are going. Teresa, good to see you. It's been a while. Hope you're doing well up there. And then as far as the S&P, what I've been looking at is basically this market. We're trying to decide mostly, is it going to just keep screaming up? Is this a really strong rally, and is this going to be like what we saw before, like this, or is it going to kind of more behave to the rules that I'm used to that I've created, which would be the 50, 200, 50 maneuver? And it's been challenging to figure that out over the last couple days. We did have the Memorial Day weekend in between, so 3-day weekend. We had a pretty strong short squeeze, a short covering rally going Thursday, Friday into the weekend. And then yesterday, which was Tuesday, we really just kind of didn't do much. The markets didn't really do anything there. And in fact, if we look at the internals, yesterday, the internals were pretty much, neutral negative, and then kind of bled off at the end of the day. Even the advancers decliners were not really doing much. And then today, market didn't really do much either. The S&P maybe opened just a little bit up, but you can see here that the advancers versus decliners just broke off. And so that's some stuff I wanted to show you today as well, that things have been moving up over the last couple of days, but they're getting sold into. This is what's indicative of a bear market, that any strength seems to eventually get taken down because first off, like traders, investors, hedge funds, firms, they're trying to get money out of the market. That's the name of the game right now, is money out of the market. And so they're taking it out of names that are up high and that they can call in for profit and stuff that's just not going to be lasting. So I'll show you a few names that I've been seeing of that. And then over here, you can see the advanced decline volume was barely positive this morning and then rolled over. And so the internals, again, are not looking that great, at least for today. And we could see that then price on the S&P broke the 15-minute 50. So that's maybe the first step to looking at price coming back down to something around here. But it's not confirmed yet, because if we do look at the past on that particular move, we can see that there was one opportunity where price did dip and then it recovered and then it held the 15-minute 50. So we're going to have to kind of stay on our toes if you're going to be trying to trade the S&P directly, because while it does seem right here, it is trying to pull back. We've seen it where the market kind of finds some footing all of a sudden and continue to move up. So it's a little tricky right here, just because it's done its move for now. We don't know if there's going to be another move, and we are running into some previous price congestion right there. You can see it stopped just right at that line. So if we can get a little bit of a pullback, and if that pullback is into strength, then I would imagine we could be coming up here. I do have a trader friend who's looking at about 430 for the S&P. I've been basically targeting the daily 50, and I say the daily 50 because, well, it's a moving target, and we don't know how long it's going to take and what path that's going to take. So I think for me, it's easier just to say daily 50 as opposed to actually trying to put a price number on it. So that's kind of what we're seeing in through there with the S&P. The NASDAQ is the same, just different numbers. IWM, more or less the same. It's been up here. And it seems to be running out of strength, out of energy for right now. Again, looking for that pullback. We're going to see if that pullback is into strength, and if there can be another little bit of a move up. If the IWM can move up eventually, then maybe it can push past the daily 50 a little bit. But for the S&P, I'd be watching the daily 50. Some of the other bigger things that might be affecting this, the TNX, we're starting, it bounced a little bit today. Why did it bounce? Well, probably because it came into the daily 50 right there. We could also see that there was some internal pressure coming into it on the 15-minute time frame, price down like this. Notice that the Moxie indicator had been trending up. So this is how we use the Moxie indicator to kind of help see some of this stuff and figure out what's going on. William, I'll look into GNRC. I like where your head's at as far as seasonality, but I have a feeling that that may not really be an issue for the market right now, since across the board, it's either energy or just money is getting taken out of it. So let me get back here. UUP, another reason that maybe the market is seeing some pressure today is that the dollar kind of moved up a bit. Same reason as TNX came into the daily 50. And you can see here, price down and level, and the Moxie indicator had been moving up the entire time. In fact, here on the 15-minute time frame, these were technically trampoline moves. And a trampoline moves when price is below the 50, but the Moxie indicator is above 0. So it's kind of like a high pressure situation. All right, so GNRC, I know it's been down quite a bit. Yeah, so it's just been trending down. You know, there could be an idea about the seasonality. And when I had a mentor, a friend who ran a company that had seasonal software, and while the seasonality could be right, you say, hey, yeah, it's hurricane season, generator sales usually go up. That might still be true. And so if you look at the seasonality of it, yes, there could be a bump up for this season. Now, because of the condition of the market and the condition of all these names and what's going on in the greater picture, that bump up might be shorter, might not be as big, and it might be for a shorter duration. So the software eventually might capture that and say, oh yeah, that seasonality still worked, 10 for 10, it worked. But normally it would go say 20% for 20 days. What if it only goes 5% for 5 days? So just kind of keep that in mind. You really do need to look at what's going on with the overall market, and it's still pretty tough. Yeah, there was a bit of a move here. These were trampoline moves right there, priced below the 50, but the Moxie indicator above 0. Trampoline moves finally got up, but it's kind of running into the daily 50. Yes, the daily 8 is over the 21, so that's some progress, and the 50 is over the 200. That is some progress. But if we look at the bigger picture, the question I have is, how do we make sure we don't kind of get into something like that again, to where you can see how price just chopped around? That ultimately is my concern for a lot of stocks that are coming off the bottom. Is I don't know, and I'm not confident that some of these names are really going to move up strongly, or they're just going to kind of get into a trading zone as they're not quite dead, but they're kind of zombie. Maybe traders and investors have said, hey, we've sold this down to the level that's comfortable and better into the PE numbers. So we're not going to keep selling it down, but also nobody's really interested in buying them back up because we're not in a bullish market. So that's ultimately my concern, is a lot of stocks could just kind of come down into a trading range, and now you got to switch over to essentially day trading. It could be kind of tough to do some of this stuff over the summer. Benji, good to see you. Let's see, Terry. Let's see, BMY. I don't think so. Yeah, there's nothing to do here with BMY. For me, what I was looking at, notice how price was over the hourly 50 here. Notice how the Moxie indicator never went positive. Those were inverse trampoline moves. So remember, an inverse trampoline move is when price is over the 50, but the Moxie indicator is below 0. That's either a false long or that is a short. If it's the right setup for you, then it's a short. And what I could see here on the 15 was price going up. Notice the Moxie indicator going down. So there was your negative divergence on that as well. And then price just broke. So no, there's nothing to do here. Nothing to do. Maybe, if you're short, maybe you could do that, but I don't see anything going long. No opportunities there. So one other thing that I'm looking at is I was kind of looking at some of the lithium stocks. So LTHM, this is a stock that a subscriber has been asking me about over the last, checking in over the last couple weeks. And we started talking about this all the way back here with earnings. And the first thing that I said was, hey, well, I wouldn't really want to go buy it right here on a gap up with earnings. That's just not very safe, because price is very elevated and it's far away from moving averages and it's just extended. So I said, if you're going to trade something like that, you're going to have to trade it on something like a 5 or 15-minute time frame and just see if you can get a day or two out of it. But otherwise, I would expect price to pull back and fill that gap. Well, it did exactly that. You can see price came all the way back down to basically where it started before earnings. This is why oftentimes I don't really trade into earnings. I can trade after earnings because they they give you another turn oftentimes. Now that turned out to be a trampoline move, price below the 50, but the Moxie indicator above 0. Great. Well, then in order to catch that, where I was saying is you could buy it here as price was flagging into the 15-minute 50. That was your basically your next opportunity to get it once it turned around. And then as that continued, it kept getting choppy. It was up and it was down, it was up and it was down, and it was not following the 15-minute 50 very well. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe the problem is that it still had this gap between price and the hourly 50. And so I said, well, you got to be careful, from here, that price might want to come back down to hourly 50, which it did. And then we kind of went away from it for a while, mostly because the Moxie indicator wasn't looking too good here. And it just looked like it was choppy and the market wasn't doing too much. And then all of a sudden, I look back and I think on Thursday, Friday, I see that LTHM had done this. I was like, wow, that was actually a pretty nice move. What did I need to know? What did I miss? And the only thing I could say is actually this was a flag into an uptrending hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator above zero. So that was all there. And then you just got to move, like a big move, relatively big. And you're like, oh, okay, maybe you're kicking yourself like, man, I missed that. The one thing, don't go chasing it. So first off, don't go chasing it. And then second off, I came back in today. I'm going through my list and watching stuff. I'm like, okay, how are these lithium stocks? And I was actually quite surprised to see LTHM all the way back down here. And so what I wanted to do was bring this to you guys' attention, the Moxie Room, the free trading room out there on Facebook and YouTube. And this is indicative of what is going on with the market. First off, we had a short squeeze, a short covering rally Thursday, Friday in the market. So did some other stocks. Look at LTHM. This was a short squeeze. This was not actually legitimate buying. Part of the way I can see this is it was kind of a crappy setup to begin with because it was just all over the place. And then the other thing is it didn't really give me a setup on the 15-minute time frame. It just kind of spiked out of nowhere and it lit those shorts on fire. Notice how it never touched the 15-minute 50. It never touched it. So it was very overbought, extended, and far away from any moving average. It never tested any moving average for confirmation of strength. It just went straight up. And then you can see here, it got very overbought outside of that hourly third ATR, got very far away from the hourly 50. And almost like before, when it got too far away from the 50, it wanted to come back down to it and come back down in a hurry. And then in the daily chart, look at this, third ATR and third ATR. These are the things that I point out all the time. It's very consistent as far as what we're seeing here. But as far as the bigger picture, like being in a bear market, yes, the market went up and a lot of names went up. But we need to make sure that we're not, or we're able to differentiate between names that are going up because people are buying them and names that are going up simply because shorts are having to undo their position and are having to buy to cover. And once they're covered, once they're out of their shorts, there's nobody actually buying it. And so it rolls right back over. And so, yeah, wow, this could have been a great move. And whoever the subscriber was that was kind of talking to me about this, if they caught it, well, they're right back down to where they began. I mean, this is a tough market. This is really a tough market because they work and then they don't work. So if you guys are finding that this is happening or you're getting some wins and stuff, take the win and then got to ratchet up your stops. I'm realizing in this market, we're going to have to really tighten up some stuff because things are kind of getting away from us in both directions. And we just got to be careful. We've got to be safe on this. So yeah, really gnarly stuff out there. The LTHM, PLL, it's kind of across the board. Like, look at that. Big move down today. Now, PLL was a little bit easier to see. It made sense because price ran right into the underside of a downtrending daily 50 with the Moxie indicator below zero. There you go. And then you can see here it happened when price broke down below the 15-minute 50. You could even say it went into prior resistance, just this big glob of price right there on the daily chart. That's PLL. SLI is basically in a bear flag. So if you guys want to trade something short, this looks like this would be pretty decent because this right here on the daily chart pretty much looks like a bear flag. It's just going sideways to slightly up and probably going to get rejected by the daily 50 or the hourly 200. And so I would imagine that's going to keep going down. And then ALB was another one. And I was actually looking to short this soon, but I was holding off because I didn't quite see my trigger yet. Because I was figuring right in through here was probably going to be some resistance. The Moxie indicator wasn't looking very good at the time. Same here, the 15-minute wasn't looking very good at the time. But I knew the market was going to be going up towards the end of last week. I didn't expect these things to respond in such a way, but just like, doesn't this look just like LTHM had that spurt to the upside and then collapsed? So again, short covering rally. It's a short squeeze. They just squeezed out the shorts, and then nobody was left to buy, and so it came right back down. But I was considering shorting this also because if you look at the daily chart, there's still a gap here between price and the daily 50, and the 50 is below the 200. This is setting up. This is a topping pattern. That's what's happening here with that 50 below the 200, just a topping pattern. So if we can kind of find the right opportunity, it might be messy, but I think these things are working their way lower, not higher. And you got to be careful on any up moves because they might get sold into. The investors and uh, hedge funds and things like that, they're taking these opportunities to get out at decent positions. So try not to get suckered into something like that. All right, so let's see, Matthew, Tesla have a chance to give up all the gain from the indicator. Well, that depends on I don't know what you're saying as far as the indicator goes. If you're talking about Moxie or something, but what's it trying to tell you? So if I were to be talking about this stuff, it's very similar to the market itself. Remember that the last time that the market had that big short squeeze and rally was at the end of March, and that's what we saw here. You could see that price just ran up. It was able to keep pushing, 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 even though it was floating off of the hourly 50. And in that case, we didn't really have to worry about the 200. It was already crossed. It was very narrow. But now look at this. It sure seems like price is having a harder time. You can also see that price is right here at the daily 21, which is typically the arch of the foot. So whereas before, big move to the upside, I think this one's different. If these things are going to eventually be bullish, then we should see an elf shoe. Here's the leg, here's the heel, here's the arch of the foot. We look for a price to pull back, ball the foot, and then we see if price can move up. So this is why I'm looking for a pullback somewhere in through here, and then we'll have to see if that pullback is into strength. And if it's into strength, then we can catch the next wave to the upside. Now, there's no guarantee of that because price could come down, it could waffle around a little bit, and then it could keep going lower. Maybe all this is doing is bear flagging. What if all this does is just chop around for a while until it finally goes lower? It's a possibility. We definitely have to keep that in mind because look at what LTHM was doing. Look at ALB. Look at those names. They were up and then they rolled over real hard. So TTD, just kind of a mess. I've been very, very hesitant about some of these things. In fact, yesterday we looked at it. The only thing I could say was, yes, there's a double bottom. Yes, there was positive divergence. In fact, this is a trampoline move, price below the 50, but the Moxie indicator above 0. Great. And the first move was here where price engaged with the 15-minute 50. But now at this point, we have to now look at the hourly chart because that's the next time frame to engage or not engage. We have to say, because look at what it did before. And notice the similarities. You see how price crossed over the 50 and see how price crossed over the 50. And then you can see how price kind of ran into some resistance and how price is running into resistance. And what I would say even back at the time and what I'll say again currently is we don't know what this thing is going to do until we have it verified at the hourly 50. That's what I would be looking for. I would want to see, is the hourly 50 going to move up like this? And is price going to hold it and continue to move up like that? Notice how price also did the same thing before. See how it went sideways into an uptrending hourly 50? Now the trick is, or I guess not the trick, but what happened was it did not hold. And you can see here, it was demonstrating itself via an inverse trampoline move on the 15-minute time frame. So price was trying to push up across a downtrending moving average with the Moxie indicator below 0. And that was the only clue that you got that this thing was not going to work. So while I'm saying we need to wait and see what happens as price comes into contact with the hourly 50, it's going to be the 15-minute time frame that gives us a little bit of a clue as to if that 50 is going to hold or not. So right now with TTD, I would expect there to be some sort of pullback. And the question is, will that pullback be into strength that holds, or is it going to fail? And we don't know that yet, but it's the best I can tell you as to what to look forward to. Well, Frankie, hey, if you got any issues with us, I mean, come email me. We're here to talk. I do this every day, Wednesday, and let me know. Let me know what your issues are if you're having problems out there. All right, let's see. AVGO. So, Georgia, we've been talking about AVGO for quite some time. Yes, generally on the short side. And I think the last time we really talked about it was this was an inverse trampoline move on the daily time frame. And then after that, price just kept getting rejected by the underside of the daily 50 while the Moxie indicator was below zero. So, yes, I think that AVGO will continue to trend downward. And so, yes, I think it would be a short. You can see that the highs keep getting lower. Um, but it's been one of the stronger stocks as far as semiconductors and that kind of space goes. So, maybe tackle something else that isn't as strong, or if you want to do it, then just understand that it might be jumping around quite a bit. So you'll have to figure out what you want to do as far as this jumpiness up and down, up and down. All right. Because you can see it went down, then came back up. It's kind of all over the place. So if you can find something within that, great. Or if you think that there's going to be a bigger move to the downside, you might have to find decent spots on the bounces and then just wait. And you might have to wait a long time because that's what we've been seeing in this market is it can take several months for price to really get going and roll over. I keep using the DKS as an example because we were all over that thing and we made some money. But if we had waited a few more months, it would have really worked out nicely. But there were a lot of bounces in between until this thing finally gave it up. So AVGO might be in the same kind of situation. And then UPS, I mean, what do not much to do with this. It's doing another 50, 250 maneuver. I imagine these things should pull back. And it's just really tough to kind of figure this stuff out. They are in downtrends. And if you're trying to go long, you got to find the exact right opportunity to go long, but then they're going to run into resistance. And so maybe going short is kind of the better option, but you have to wait for the right opportunity. And we don't know if they're going to go down much further before bouncing. It's just tough. The downside is a trickier beast. It just is. So it's just a challenging thing out there. Mike, yes, you were talking about LTHM. You shorted it twice the third day. Yeah, got out. Good money. Nice. So yeah, that was pretty crazy to keep watching that. That's what I really like to do is I may not trade a lot of stocks, but I will look at them and watch them and learn from them and be able to communicate stuff to you. So yeah, that LTHM trade had me surprised going into the weekend. And then when I saw it today, I was like, round trip. Definitely a round trip. Benji, let's see. Do I need to have the $sign DXY? Yeah, that's the same as UUP. So if you could go back into trend up for, yeah. So that's kind of what I covered the dollar earlier. And I think right now it's bouncing at the daily 50, but I don't see a setup here on the lower charts because you still have the hourly 50 in a downtrend and you have the 50 below the 200. And you also have price over a downtrending hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator below zero, no divergences. This is the only the bounce coming into the daily 50, and you can only see that through the lens of the 15-minute time frame. So all this is a little bit of a bounce, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it kind of roll over again at some point. Now, will it break the 50? We don't know that yet, but this is definitely not an uptrend. This is only a bounce off the daily 50 yet. Benji, I think you've been around long enough that you can definitely tell what we're looking for on the hourly chart to go bullish, especially when the 50 is below the 200. I mean, that when the 50 gets below the 200, that changes things, and it means that the fast moving average is below the slow moving average, and you're going to have to give it some time to reset, and then to have price engage with a then uptrending 50 with hopefully some positive divergences on the Moxie chart and stuff like that. Here's just a recent example of what happens when the 50 gets below the 200. So this is part of why I have that 50-250 rule and all that kind of stuff. It's going to take some time. If the dollar is going to resume its uptrend, it's going to take some time. Let's see. There's 6E. Probably going to be asking me questions that I don't really look into. Let's see what's going on here. Yeah, the only thing, again, unfamiliar with this one, so take that with a grain of salt. The only thing I can say is that there looks like there was an undercut and rally, and then it moved up to the daily 50. It looks like the daily 50 right now is resistance, And then what you could see is price got rejected by the underside of the hourly 50. And then more specifically here on the 15, you can see price was getting rejected by the underside of the 15-minute 200. And I guess yesterday or overnight into this morning was running into the underside of a downtrending 15-minute 50. On the hourly chart, you also had the 8 below the 21, and it fell off of the hourly 200. So basically, it just ran into a lot of overhead resistance, and then you could see that through some of the lower time frames as well. Uh, and then on like the monthly and weekly, maybe this thing is trying to hammer out a bottom because it's been so oversold. It's outside of that lower third ATR, and it's been riding the third ATR on the weekly time frame. So from this perspective, I would say, well, be careful. It could be hammering out a bottom, trying. And if we look, let's say, on the daily and hourly, watch for it to pull back and then see if that pullback is into any strength and if it can set up long again. It's very much like what the S&P is doing right now. The S&P right now is doing a 50-250 on the hourly chart and is running into basically the 21 EMA on the daily chart, which is the arch of the foot. And I'm expecting a pullback, but I want to see if that pullback is into strength to actually move up. Same kind of situation here is that it got oversold. It bounced into resistance. Now we have to see if it pulls back into support and if it can start going up again. All right. So hopefully that makes sense as far as the 1-2 step to see these things working out that way. Let's see, ADBE for a short. Maybe you're gonna have to give this one some time also because it's obviously been hammered and punished, and it is at the lows. And what it's trying to do is actually work on getting some altitude. Maybe that will make it a short eventually, but I'm not sure that I see any opportunity to short this anytime soon. And then just watch out for earnings. So yeah, I don't see anything yet. It looks like it's trying to actually trend upward a little bit, and you'll just have to see how far up it can go before kind of rolling over. Yeah, let's see. Good morning, Amal and Latte Milo. Let's see. So MULN makes me want to say Miller time, Mullen time. Okay, so it goes from 0, almost no volume to a lots of volume. So might want to check out what's going on with that and see if it's worthy or not. I am seeing a potential elf shoe here. Leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot, potential elf toe. But that could take a while to build. If this is a weekly time frame that I'm looking at right here, and it's taking that many weeks to form a double bottom, it might take several more weeks to kind of really form something else. So this one looks a little bit tricky just because of all that volume that went from nothing to something. But what I'll be looking at here is notice the first run up. Price, or the Moxie indicator was above 0 the entire time. And even though price had some pretty big pullbacks, what were they? Trampoline moves. So price below the 50, the Moxie indicator above 0, trampoline move. And you could also see that the hourly 50 was generally in an uptrend. And then it reversed, and that was an inverse trampoline move and an inverse trampoline move. Now, maybe it's trying to do it again. Personally, I would like to see price come back down and test the hourly 50. Just like here, how price came back down and tested the hourly 50. I don't want to be buying here, and I don't want to be buying here. And I wouldn't want to buy there. I'd want to try and find a pullback to be buying. So I don't want to be buying here. I'd wait and see if this thing can pull back at some point. So interesting something. Do a little research, see what's going on with that volume, and be patient. Be patient. Let's see if there's an opportunity with this one. I'll kind of keep a track of it and see what we can do with it. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks again. And remember that come over here to profitpilot.com. I gave a bear market update, free update about the market, just kind of what I thought I saw out there. And so if you guys want to check it out, it'll be up there. And yeah, good luck. This market is pretty tough. You've seen things that are going up and getting pulled back out of the blue. And we're just going to have to take this one day at a time. So just be careful out there. It's a tough market. All right, guys. Thanks again. And I'll